Okay, so so if you can see the title that I put on the board is it says black is black. It's of course you know that as an old song of the Rolling Stones. And why did I put this? It's because it can be thought at the heart of what we are going to talk today, which is again about syntax and semantics of the subject of the unconscious. What we learn in mathematics, we learn that something like A equal A is a tautology. What is added about tautology is that you cannot get a lot out of a tautology. But when we are dealing with the subject of the unconscious, we can say that a tautology does not exist. So, we are going to have three parts on what we wish to say today is I'm going to focus again on the syntax and semantics, and which is one approach of the subject, and then Jeanne is going to go through some more the differences and what is common between sense and signification, and which is another approach of the subject. And the third part will be dealing with another way to introduce the concept of the subject, which is going to be a very a little small introduction, because we can speak of the subject of the unconscious for more than 1 year. Okay, so what is obvious is that there is a strong discrepancy between the psychology approach of the occurrences of a patient and what we are dealing with in the psychoanalytic listening and discourse. Psychology always leads us to some interest in understanding or comprehension of the semantics of what the patient says, and which is very different from what actually Freud said and what we have in the Lacanian approach. Okay, so if we look again at this sentence, black is black. We have three terms. Although the first and the third look the same, but they actually are different because they do not have the same function in the sentence. The first is the subject, the second is the verb, a particular verb which is to be, which is the founding of the ontology, and the third is an object which is some kind of attribute. And therefore, as soon as a consequence first of the fact that they do not have the same function in the sentence, they are different. There is no identity between the first black and the second black. I know that in English you like to use this French sentence, c'est la vie, and if you say la vie, c'est la vie, again it's not identical. Identity does not exist. This can be some kind of first theorem of the subject. Identity does not exist on the subject, about a subject. There is no identity. Does not exist. If we come now to the main theorem of Descartes, who said, "I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum." Again, we have something that is shifting from the first part of the sentence to the second. I think we have to be aware of the fact that I think, whether it's possible to conclude that therefore I am, which is a second part of the sentence. But when I say I think, it is different to say I think than to say I am a thinking being. Because when I say I think is not a thought. It is an assertion that I do. Last time we were talking about the sophism of the liar, and you remember that, and if I say I am Epimenides is a Cretan, and he says that every people living in Crete are liars. I indicated that it was a false assertion by looking at the syntax, which is to be a liar is an ontology, and you can as well decide or indicate where in what this assertion is false by going into the theory of the sets. Maybe let's get back to where it was. Okay. Can you see that? Yes. This sentence says, in a way, that all x, for all x, there is the function liar for x. But what does that mean? This is equivalent of another sentence which would be, okay. Can you see the bottom of the, I'm going to put it here. It does not exist x which is not a liar. Okay, meaning that there is, when I say this in the as a category, it is equivalent to say that, but with this we say that there is no Cretan who is not able to lie. It defines the ability to lie, and not the fact that Cretan are lying all the time for every discourse. Ah oui, ça fait trop de bruit. Okay. So, so you see that you can, when you get into the syntax, and that you write down the syntax as rules, or based on the set theory, then you can see that it is again another way to prove that this is not a theorem, and that the what seems to be impossible is actually possible. Ok, alors ça je parlerai peut-être après plutôt, hein, c'est l'effet du signifiant, etc. Ok. Um, Okay. So what is a subject? A subject is something that you can count. If I am a big hunter, maybe I can put a mark on the wood of my rifle. A trait, a unary trait, a mark saying for me to count each time I killed a deer or a game. And snipers are very happy to count the people they killed in this way, and they are not interested in the name or of the person they killed, but they count. And for each person there is, for each subject, human subject, there is going to be a new mark on the wood of the rifle. And the funny thing in English is that we do not have this sentence in French, but to name young kids, you would say the little ones. And you see that they're you indicate them as little ones, okay, little traits. Okay. I think it can be. I can stop there for the first part, and maybe you got some questions so far. Okay, no questions. Okay. Ouais, je vais peut-être te passer ça, c'est peut-être plus commode, hein. Ça. Voilà, et puis ça, voilà.
Okay. I'm going to speak about semantic and syntax, and about logic, unconscious logic. But I think we can speak about jouissance logic. I think we can say jouissance logique. We can say language logic, but it's a bit difficult to say unconscious logic. I think we unconscious. It's better to speak about jouissance logique. So I begin with a sentence quite odd. That is, if it's true, so I am the Pope. You say Pope? Pope. If it is true, I am the Pope. It's a sentence that means that you are not, that something is wrong, because I am not the Pope. That but it's you in logic, in classical logic, you must not do something like that. You must not tell something with the syntax and something with the semantic. The semantic is I am the Pope. The two parts of the sentence make something wrong by the using of semantic in one part of the sentence. When I say I am the Pope, you have two levels, and you must not, in classical logic, you must not change level when you do a logic sentence. But when we say, if it's true, so I am the Pope, you do a mistake. Never mind, we always do mistakes, logic mistake like that. Always you mélanger?
Mix.
You mixed. Always you mixed semantic and syntax when you speak. So you have to, the linguist do the differentiation, but the unconscious does not, of course. And I want to explain the difference between syntax and semantic by the difference between sense and signification. Actually, signification is quite semantic, and sense quite syntax, but not at all. The instance, example. The instance example. The example I use for that is a little sentence in a Molière theatre piece, L'École des Femmes, the School of Women. In this story, there is a young woman who is promised by her father at an old man, and the old man for the first time came on the stage and looked for seduce the young woman, and he speak quite a lot. He do very great compliments and so on. It's quite long time, and she answered just the little sentence, the little pussy is dead. When you are in the public and you listen that sentence, you laugh, because it's very funny to see the old man using each word and these sentences to seduce, and she answered just that little sentence. The little pussy is dead. Everybody understands that this little sentence is have a signification, simple signification, that there is a cat in the backyard dead. But everybody understand also that what she means at that time is, I don't want to speak to you, at least. And quite a bit more, I am little pussy is dead. That is sexual connotation, of course. That in in the laugh you have, you understand. You laugh also because when she uses a signification so simple, she also says that she doesn't want to be the little pussy of this man, quite dead, the old man. Everybody understands that in the jouissance, and it's a reason for laughing. You understand, I think, what is signification. The signification is a little cat is dead. But when she says a little pussy is dead, and when she says that sentence, that simple sentence, as an answer of a quite long discourse, she means the sense of this sentence is, I don't want to speak you, I don't want to marry you, and so on. I think you understand that example. And I want to try to explain that difference across the different figures and schemas which Lacan has done since 1955 to 1962. And he gives us many ways to say to understanding the difference, the same difference between sense and signification. The sense of something is not in the signification. You have to put on second level to understand how you mean something to somebody else. We can say also with when Lacan says that, Lacan speaks with forgotten language as a hieroglyph before they have been translated. That there is hieroglyph, you have it's necessary with a sense. You know that this sentence has a sense, but you can't give the signification. So it's bon. The first figure I shall explain to you is the first schemas, Lacan schemas, called schema L. I think you know it, but I do it again. It's a schema you find in Lettres volées in 1955.
The purloined letter.
The purloined letter of il s'appelle l'auteur?
Edgar Poe.
Edgar Poe, you know Edgar Poe, of course. The first figure. Je ne vous vois pas, oui. Is that one. You say, a frame. I think it's a line of signification. It's a line of chat when you speak between with your friend, with a symmetric person, something like you échanger. You exchange some signification, and there is a subject. You have to suppose the sujet which begin a conversation as a symmetric person, a semblable, same.
Yeah, the same.
The same. and the other one is there, the A. That is the other, the great other. So the great other you have inside of your mind as a figure of all the person you have to speak with. You have spoken with. That is the sentence exchange, the signification. I think you can say the chat between friends. But the sense of this chat is determined by the great other. The place of great other in your mind. And this cross the signification to go to the subject, to define the subject at the second time. Lacan writes on this line, unconscious. Of course, and we always we always bar subjects, but because we have always to remember that we say of a subject is the supposed to the unconscious. That you have to suppose that something, perhaps just a locus, just a space, is beginning a sentence between two persons, somebody, and the sense of the signification is determined by the situation between the great other, to have as a consequence, to have as an effect something characterized the subject. In my example, when Agnès is called, when Agnès said the little pussy is dead, she as an answer, she doesn't want to answer to the discourse of the old man, and she say a sentence to say no, I don't want to have a chat with you. And when she says the little pussy is dead, she recognized at the other the pussy, from the other pussy, she was in the father's mind, something like that. Because her father have quite sold her to the old man. So she said, as I am a pussy, I am the pussy to my father. And also she said, of course, he's dead, that she doesn't want to. She doesn't want that. You have a second figure in 1556, that is 1955. And you have quite the same figure with called the schema R. Schema R, we say R. It's so different. Which this figure is in Traitement possible de la psychose.
Yeah, psychosis, possible treatment of psychosis.
And Lacan in this figure double the line of chat, and he calls it reality. reality. Of course, you have also the cross. We have in that we have the communication. We have the group. Après, the group where the sentence is understood by the ones of a group. Of course, you have subject here, grand A, and you have two new concepts on this figure is id A and grand I, idéal, and le moi ici. Something like the ego, I think it was the ego. Sorry, I'm sorry. In English. The ego is a picture, une somme de caractères. A sum of characterization with a liaison with the subject, but it's not the subject. And it is a point in a reality and in the chat, in the communication. Something about the signification. Something of you is your ego you have in the banal chat between the others, the little others in a community, in a group. And you also, when you begin speak, banal speak, you present you, of course, as a picture of jouissance de l'autre, and as to be pleasant to the other, but pleasant or no pleasant, c'est-à-dire la jouissance. It happens that when you begin a conversation, you know you have to be you have to be unpleasant, you have to be nasty for somebody, for making the jouissance of the other, for making each other jouissance. So you have a figure to begin conversation with a jouissance. And about that, by that, there is something about communication, but the sense of this communication is decided another place by the way of the language and the others makes your place in this situation, and cross the signification to determinate subject at the second time. You have something like a 8, the first one, like a 8, double with the schema R, double there to definite 4 points of the reality, jouissance, le semblable, the same, little other,
yeah, same.
Petit autre, the same. Le grand I, c'est-à-dire le grand I, je ne sais pas parler, and the ego. But ici there is subject and ici there is. In a cure, in a psychoanalytic cure, you have, Lacan often says that you have to be in this place. Not in a conversation at the same, but at the place that is supposé, suggestionné. Suppose.
Suppose, yeah.
Suppose to the sense. Suppose to make the sense. To suppose for a signification have a sense. there is quite many of significations simple, without sense. Somebody as Joyce have done many sentences like that, with a signification and indecible sense. And he makes poetry with this difference, with this radical difference between some sentence with a signification and with a sense you can't understand. You have to make you as the author in the Joy sentences, in Finnegan's Way, for instance, but so in the Little Epiphany, you have to make yourself as Guante to have a sense of these sentences. And it's a meaning process very new, and I think nobody done after him. This radical exclusion,
radical exclusion.
Radical exclusions between signification and sense. In a psychoanalytic cue, you have not to listen to the signification of the chat, of the empty parole. If you say, la parole vide.
Yeah, empty discourse.
Empty discourse. You have to listen to the sense of the empty discourse. Of course, it's possible there is a very great chat for 2 hours with one sense. In the contrary, you have a very short sentence with a great sense. It's very important to see the 8 there, because of course it becomes the anterior 8 of the Mobius band. Huh? And in 62, Lacan will explain the language logic between sense and signification with the Mobius band. I think we have this third figure that's in Subversion du sujet in 60. Jacques have already spoken of that in this one, you know.
Yeah, the graph of design.
The graph of design, and there is something beginning. I'm thinking it's something about jouissance. Beginning a sentence, he finds the great A, and there is there the signification, the use of the word. But the sense is definite on the other line. On the other line. With effectivement une demande pulsionnelle, demand, pulsionnel demand, something about the jouissance, to be pleasant, to have a sense. What is the energy of your conversation? He finds the fantasme, c'est-à-dire he finds the place on the other side. The jouissance has defined you as a subject before, and of course it finishes with a characterization of a point of the subject, and the sense is there, and the signification is there. There is in this line there is the semantic. there is the term, there is the way of any word have, for a group, any word have a signification. A signification understood by the group of things. But the sense is defined in an individual way, of you between the place we have in the great order, the place we have in the you have took when you begin to speak, and and your actual, your presence will to speak, something like that. Ouais, qu'est-ce que je voulais dire d'autre? The semantic is the dictionary. The dictionary is the signification, and there is many significations for a word, and it's like an call that trésor des signifiants.
Treasure of the signifiers.
The treasure of a language, and the way a language created many significations. But the sense is always something individual. You have to, in which you use the signification of a language, you use the signification of a group, of the dictionary, and you use it to do a sense, to make a sense, and a sense which defines you as a subject, and of course you the place the subject has in a signification is the ego. The ego, something like a social figure of you. You have some harmony or disharmony between the ego and you. You like you, for instance, you like you, or you dislike yourself. You know that you are too quick. You know that you are too slow. You have many questions between you and your ego, your social figure in a group, in the group. I think that's a figure of the ego. It's necessary to life because the subject is just a bar, a space for the beginning, for the identification, as a count. You have to count yourself to be able to begin to speak. Qu'est-ce que je voulais dire d'autre? Oui, je crois que... I think the real difference is above all about the difference between something about a group. You have to use the words of a group, of a dictionary, of a language. The language is before you, but you have to create in this language your own way to speak, your own way to do a sense. to do a sense. The sense is always something making by the subject. I give the.
Okay.
I give the.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so. Merci. Okay, so before we carry on, maybe you've got some questions or precision you wanted to have from Jeanne and through what she said.
Yeah, I'm interested in this notion of the subject as a space for signification. And I wonder, can we equally say that the body is this space from which the signification arises, or is equally this space for signification?
The body is another. The body is another subject, another question, another question. If I say a space, it's just to say that perhaps it's just a point. It's just we say I know it in linguistic enunciation.
Yeah, utterance, enunciation.
Enunciation. As a point, perhaps, for instance, I know many autists because I work with them, and I think it's often that's the question. He doesn't find a point of enunciation. He doesn't find a way to beginning, and somebody like Madame Lasnik, they say that for children find a point to beginning to speak, it's necessary there is a hole in the other, un trou dans l'autre. Mm-hmm. A hole in the other. There is it must be something like a question, like an interrogation in the mother when she speaks to her baby. There is something like an enigma, mysterious, and she have to wait about a response. If she never waits, the baby doesn't find a point. Doesn't find the point to beginning to speak. That's what I see when I say a space. There is not a characteristic of that. It may be many things, but the baby have to have as a point something like an hole to beginning to make a signification with a sense. I depend.
Yeah, I can go on this answer. It's the subject has to be understood by the mother as an instance of this unary trait, which has two consequences. One belongs to the real, and the other belongs to the symbolic, and well, a third belongs to the imaginary as well. But it is by this carving process, which is mandatory to to create this unary trait, which is going to be created in the real, that the mother has to take into account that there is a symbolic counterpart of this carving process in the symbolic, and meaning that it has to be obvious for her that the symbolic has a hole in it, that it is not full.
And there is a mysterious, there is a baby mystery. What the baby means when he cries. What the baby means when, if you have not this question, there is nowhere for the baby to speak.
Mm-hmm.
To speak, to mind, to dire quelque chose,
to say something.
To say something, as with cry, with jest, with anything else, not with words in the beginning.
Again, we are
perhaps okay. just comment on dit le sourire?
The smile.
The smile. We know by Spitz that the smile is an instinctual jest of the face, of the body, when the baby is no more hungry.
Has no more hunger. Is not hungry anymore.
And the body smile, and it's the mother makes sense of the smiles.
Mm-hmm.
She imagines that when the baby smiles, she thanks. The baby thanks her, but it's the beginning of an installation between sense and speak and signification. The smile is just a signification, but the mother, when she understands that the baby is thanks her, it's the beginning of the speaking.
Okay, it's in the triad: real, symbolic, imaginary. Of the functioning of the unary trait. This unary trait, seen on the real side, is again the transformation of what the infant thought or believed to be a sphere, and this unary trait is again some kind of carving process in this sphere, by transforming this sphere into a torus. Okay. Then there is a not an image but a counterpart of this real unary trait in the symbolic. This little one created by this means that the symbolic is not has a hole in it. It's not a hole with WH. It is a hole with no W in the beginning of the word. And so this is where the count is possible, where the hunter is counting the deers he has killed. And as Jeanne mentioned, there is the third consequence, which is on the imaginary. For instance, how the mother will interpret the cry of the baby. Oh, you are hungry, or maybe you have a poor digestion, or your teeth are growing, and but of course, or you're cold. But this is the imagination of the mother, and this is a mandatory part. These three dimensions are mandatory for the invention of the new subject.
Can you tell me about the unary trait in the real?
Okay. I think it's fundamental to understand this. Although the unary trait is used in the symbolic as a way to count, to be able to say, I've seen all these little ones playing in the garden yesterday. The first existence, and this term has to be used, existence of the unary trait is, I believe, in the structuring of the real. Let me say that again, because you are asking the question. Is a newborn child has no reason at all to believe that his cosmogony is different from a sphere, because during 9 months this child had all his needs satisfied by the placenta, and after the birth, things are immediately very different, because he has first to breathe, and the cry, the shout which accompany usually the first breathing is the first encounter with the anguish and with the fact that the world is different from a sphere. And this is what I always use the term as a carving process, like if you are carving a wood with a tool. And this has the shape of a unary trait, which is going to make a hole into the sphere of the real of the infant. Therefore, there is a transformation of the structure of the real of the baby. Yes. And of course, it is maybe there that the real starts. And we can believe that as long as the real has the structure of a sphere, it is totally useless. It is inefficient. And maybe this is what we can observe when we are listening to autistic children. Because what can be noted is when it is believed as three toruses, doesn't matter. When it is three toruses that can be knotted together. But spheres, a sphere, you can do nothing with the sphere. You cannot make any knot with 2 or 3 spheres. You can play soccer, but not much more. This is this is what I believe to be the first occurrence of the unary trait, seen from the on the dimension of the real. Then, by some kind of process of identification, in a way, there is the same process on the symbolic and then the same process on the imaginary. Therefore, transforming these 3 structures into 3 toruses. Okay?
About the imaginary. I thought in the schema L we had the line that was connecting ego and the little a, which was more imaginary. So I mean, can you expand on that? Because the signification seems to me that it produced assuming some sort of imaginary content or some sort of imaginary contact with the little a, with the particularity of the other. That's how I read the little a, and then the question was here posed that does the sense only happen through the big other, to the big A? And another question: what's happening then between the little a and the subject? What is the consequence of all this production of the signification being communicated along the line that I consider imaginary, and then the crossing line of the unconscious? That's what's the result of that.
Okay. Let me first answer to the second question, because I think it's a fundamental thing to understand. What you are saying is asking in a way the connection between the ego and the subject. Lacan noticed that in English, when you say, if you ask who did that, you can answer I. In French, you cannot do that. In French, if you say who did that, qui a fait ça, you will say me, ego. You cannot say I. Qui a fait ça, je. You cannot say that in French. In French, you say qui a fait cela, you say moi. Okay? Although in English, you can say who did that, and you can answer I. In a way, I don't know what the consequences are of this, but it's a discrepancy, huh? Yeah, she said due to the state of the mirror phase.
Well, yeah, there are languages that emphasize the ego much more strongly. English and French is one of those. I come from the Polish language, and there are languages where you skip it entirely in many enunciations.
Oh, okay. Okay, like in, yeah.
let's not get too distracted into languages, because they have certain consequences because of the fact that you're using them. For example, the English language has also a proclivity toward emphasizing the possessive pronoun. I wash my hands. And in French, you wouldn't say that much. You would say, je me lave mes mains.
Yeah, that's right.
It works, right? And it's implied that it's your hands that you're washing. And in English, you keep emphasizing because they wouldn't understand otherwise. So that's the thing. Let's not get too distracted with that. There are certain properties in languages. But I wanted to know not about the connection between the ego and the subject, but between the petit a, the little a object that is there on the right hand, top right hand, and there is some sort of line between them. And I thought there is, we could maybe comment on this in the light of, certain processes there reaching the subject.
I think Freud do reference with the narcissism. There is the ego. The ego is an object. Is an object for the subject.
Unfortunately, your speech is not hitting the microphone.
I think Freud have a reference with the text Narcissism, on the narcissism, and he says, I remember something like there is a process which makes the difference between the ego and something identificating to this ego, and when you live when with the narcissist, you have the reference. The ego must be liked by the subject to be ego pleasant in the group. And I think also that Lacan does an answer with the mirror state, in the fact that the subject, when he recognizes himself in the mirror, you have two things identified, not completely identified, of course, but we have a subject, we have a jouissance in recognizing himself in the mirror. So you have to you have to suggest that there is somebody else, something like that. Be pleased by your own pictures. I think the two weapons to your question, something about the narcissism and something about the mirror state. You have to suppose something else as a subject to have the jouissance of recognizing yourself.
Yeah. And as well, if I did, I think you can keep that. If I answer it that way, is due to the fact that everything that takes that is in this line between A and A prime is all the schemes of identifications, imaginary identifications between human beings, and the main difference between the big other, which is in a place A, I don't know if you see that, and this line is always very important to emphasize when you are working as a psychoanalyst. The difference is: are you playing? Are you a other, little other for your? Are you an alter ego for your analysand, or are you the subject who is supposed to know something of your patient's symptoms? And as I mentioned before, you are not supposed to occupy all the time the position of the big A, the big other, but you have to be aware of the position you are having at each moment of your work as an analyst. And there are always going to be some shifting between the position of little a to big A, which is not a problem as long as you know what you are doing, what position you are occupying. And we can use the metaphor that Lacan used, and saying that the position of the analyst has to be the same as the position of the dummy in the game of bridge, la place du mort. And because meaning by that your game is open on the table. You have not to be perfect. You have not to be a superhero. You are what you are, but the cards that are opened on the table are going to be used by the analysts, and that is very important to be aware of the positions you have.
Perhaps I may add that in the schema R, Lacan white for this triangle symbolic and this triangle imaginary.
Yeah, that's right.
But I have forgotten that.
Yeah. Oh, je pense que tu peux le garder. Okay. Do you have some more questions? Because what we said last time led to a few emails on the group, and about syntax and semantics. Do you have some more? That what did what we say made it clearer for you between syntax and semantics, or? No question. Okay. You know this. Well, yeah. Okay, let's carry on now about the subject. You know this. Old story in French. It's comment il s'appelle le gars en français? Perrault in French, and the title of this story is Seven Seven at Once. Do you know that? Do you know that story? How do you call that in English? Do you remember?
Killed 7 with 1 blow, I think, is the tagline out of it.
I killed 7 with 1 blow. Oh yeah, that's right. That's what that's what he wrote on his breast or on his belt, I think. And what's very interesting in this history, in this story, is that it is exactly what the signifier is, and the unary traits. Because there we have a typical occurrence of unary traits, 7 in a blow. And of course, he does not mention what the 7 what he killed, but it's 7 ones. He killed 7 ones and of course these were flies to begin with, and at the end of the history it's 7 armies that are 7 ogres or 7 monsters and so on. And then again, you see.
Tu racontes pas l'histoire un peu?
Oh, I think. Of course. Maybe some of you do not know the story. It's a guy who is building shoes or something like that. Yeah, and with a blow, and he kills 7 flies in one blow, and he is so amazed of having been able to do that he writes that on his belt. I killed 7 in a blow. And then he lives. I think he leaves his duty, and he goes in the countryside, and he meets monsters, and then he meets a king and so on, and gangsters, and each time these guys see what's written on the belt, they imagine that it is 7 instances of
their own object.
Yeah, of their own object of desire. Yeah, okay. It's exactly, these ones are each time object of desire, but it's always 7 enemies. So then he comes to the king, and the king names him the minister of the war and so on, and he can marry the princess, of course. And this is a beautiful story because it's exactly the third. We have again the 3 phases here. The real is all the 7 flies. The symbolic is how it has been written on the belt. I killed 7 in a blow, with a blow, and then the imaginary is what each person he meets. Projects what he has done, and then we are again in the AA prime line, and with the effects it has. Okay. So what did I want to say? Let's come back to this. Let's come back to this famous sentence which has been emphasized by Jacques Lacan, which is "Wo es war, soll ich werden," where it
first time it was translated là où c'était moi, le moi doit être. Hein.
Non, c'était même pire que ça. C'était le moi doit déloger le ça.
Ouais.
Yeah, it was. We had a very poor translation in French, which was the ego
Yes.
doit déloger as to dislodge le moi de the id. And which is a better translation in English would be where it was, it is
Here,
what?
where it was, here have to be the subject.
We have two translations.
Of course.
I would say where it was, it is mandatory that I become. I would say it that way.
Okay.
It is a shift. Okay, it is a shift between. Again, this is an answer to Doug. It is a shift again between the being, because where it was is an instance of the verb to be. Where there was a being, it is important that I become. It is a shift between between a being into a subject, because we soll ich werden, le ich is in a position of the subject first, and then it is the subject which is I. Therefore, we can say that if we come back to the syntax of the discourses that we are uttering, the I is a shifter in the discourse, and this is the term that Jacques Lacan uses to depict the I. So there are two ways of having this shifting process. It can be either patent, or it can be latent, if you can use this word, guys. When in a sentence I use I start the sentence by I did something, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. When I say I, the subject of the unconscious is there in when I say I. But even if I do not say I till the next sentences, or 2 or 3 later sentences later, it does not mean that the subject of the unconscious has disappeared. Conversely, I can say that the subject of the unconscious is more actual in the words that are going to follow the beginning of the sentence, if I started this sentence by saying I did something, because the subject of the unconscious is present as a in the limbos, is present, is accompanying me all along my sentences, and there is this where the shifting process is. It is
the subject of the unconscious is present. This is what I mean when I say the space of the subject is the body. There's a going on being that seems to continue along with the forming sense of the sentence. Something is being brought along. The space of the subject is possibly the attending to the body and its environment and its relationship with language.
Can you say again?
Yeah, I think I'm making an equation between the subject of the unconscious and a going on being, which is the relationship of the body with language and the environment. So that it's this presence of the body in relationship to language and the environment that is the subject of the unconscious. This is my assertion.
If there is something that has to do with the body there, it is it is usually through the symptoms. And the jouissance, she says.
Of course, the body is there. Of course, the body is there about because there is brains. Because there is brains, and we have brains, and we know that the mind is the consequence of having a brain. So there is body. When you say presence, I think you don't speak just about the body. You speak about the body which have been united by a jouissance and united by a symbolic mark. You have the presence. The presence is a symbolic thing. It's a symbolic thing which happens when a body and a mind have concluded a good accord. The presence for me is something about the Orthodox icon. The Orthodox says that in a picture of God there is a part of the God presence in a picture. That's it's not a question of body. It's a question of presence. I agree, but a presence. It's an accord. It's a junction between a mind and a body, and something united by the significant. Par le signifiant.
We don't hear you at all.
It's. You understand what?
No, there was no sound for a while.
Ah bon?
But I follow. We do have trouble hearing a bit, but I follow. I can confirm that you are speaking of the subject in the interaction of the body with
Je suis gênée par la question du
the
corps.
symbolic.
S'il parle de la présence, ça me va. C'est ça que je voudrais lui dire.
Yeah, presence. Pardon me.
Well,
It sounded as if, Jacques, you were equating presence with the subject of the unconscious. It follows along in descent, and the presence is also following along in descent.
It is. I think it is always a dangerous slope to shift from the subject to the being, because it is a temptation that we naturally have, and which is always counterproductive in the process of listening to the patients, or or by having a return of what we are saying when we are in an analysand. Actually, there is so much more in grasping the, well, maybe there is something of the subject of the unconscious which is connected to the being, probably, maybe, but it is always connected then with the imaginary, because you cannot. I don't think you can really separate the notion of a being with separate from the imaginary. And for instance, is don't forget that the one which is supposed to be a being is God, as being the supreme being. And the question is, can God say I? It's not absolutely sure, because he is presented to religious people as being a supreme being.
And the Catholic says that for the God able to see to speak and to say I, he have to make a sound which is becoming a human body.
Okay, I wanted to. Okay, I wanted to finish on some kind of two theorems that I found in the seminar on the identification. The first is the subject is nothing else than the consequence that there is signifier, that there is a signifier. The subject, yeah, signifier. The subject is nothing else than the consequence that there is signifier. By putting it that way, you see that you shift far away from the notion of a being. the consequence of a signifier, because when you name a baby, the parents are already in a realm of signifiers. And there is a second theorem which is even more bizarre or unattained, which is that the birth of the subject is excluded of the signifier which determines it. A signifier cannot determine itself. There is some dimension of existence. The birth of the subject is excluded of the signifier which determines it. Can you grab the power of these two sentences? Because it is they are a very powerful way of putting the direction of the analytic cure. The subject is this shifting process, which is a consequence of the signifiers we use, or which are used in front of us. And its birth, the birth of the subject, is excluded of the signifier which determines it.
Is there a retroactive responsibility for this in the cure?
What? A responsibility?
A retroactive assumption of responsibility for this excluded signifier.
Whose responsibility? I don't really understand what you mean.
Maybe it could be indicated by saying that where this determining signifier is perhaps lost in the imaginary, it becomes symbolized. In other words, the simpler question is there a relationship? Does there ever become a conscious relationship to this excluded signifier, or is it just the mark, the unary trait?
Exactly. It's a mark. That's right. This is where the subject is. It is this mark. It is, and again, it can be linked to some kind of imaginary, because when we are dealing in the A prime, we are on the imaginary line. But the way the signifier is determined is not due to this imaginary process. It is due to the fact that it is created in a world occupied by signifiers. And if we link this to to the invention of a newborn child, it is linked to the ideas, to the words, to the signifiers the parents used when deciding to make a child. And of course, the funny thing is that seen from the outside or seen from the parents, it can look as if it were on the imaginary side. Oh, our child, I want him to be. I prefer to have a boy or a girl, and I'd like to that later he has this kind of job. All these things are on identification process by the parents, but this is linked to the signifiers that are going to determine the existence of this newborn child.
Il y a aussi tout simplement l'effet sujet, c'est-à-dire le fait que le sujet, dès qu'il se détermine, il disparaît parce qu'il est que le. There is also the question of the subject effect, something we say fading. We say with the English word, there is a fading of the subject. That is that when the subject has a signifier with which he can identify himself, it disappears and comes the ego. That the subject is not the beginning of the process to mind something about yourself, but when you have a signifier to say, the subject has disappeared and the ego appears.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point that Jeanne brought here, is the dimension of the fading of the subject. Absolutely, and this is something that is counterproductive in the analytic process, because with this tendency of the subject to fade and to be replaced by the ego, then this direction, this sense induced by the analysand is exactly in the opposite sense of the direction and that the analyst is trying to put forward by his work with the analysand. And the interpretation can be a way to pinpoint that there is some fading of the subject and that the subject has been replaced by the ego.
Just at the very moment when a signifier have been identified for the
identified, yeah. Okay.
It's something, the beginning of the process of meaning something. It's the beginning, just the beginning, the mark of the beginning. Something like that. And in the cure, you apprendre, listen.
You learn.
You learn that this mark is modified and is moving. It's not a fixed one. The pain of a psychoanalyst, of a patient, is that he believes that his ego was fixed. It's not fixed.
Mm-hmm.
On souffre de ça. Hein?
Yeah.
Okay, it's the time.
No, I think he wants to. Yeah, what do you want, Bruno?
It's about Freud's letter 52, the very first paragraph. There is a very interesting sentence in relation to what has just been discussed. I am working on the assumption that our psychical mechanism has come into being by a process of stratification. So this is the first part of a sentence. The second part, the material present in the form of memory traces, that is signifiers, being subjected from time to time to a rearrangement. So memory trace signifiers occasionally are reshifted and retranscribed. And that's what gives you the different emergences, in effect, at any one time of the ego. And that's why things are always shifting, but as a person, not as a subject, you do believe you have a fixed once and for all ego. So this is a kind of going back to Freud, the very beginning of Freud in letter 52.
Non, il a raison. You are right, of course. Freud is not dépassé. Il ne peut pas être dépassé. You are right.
It's not me, it's Freud. It's Freud.
Okay.
I think Lacan, perhaps in the la lettre 52, in the 52 letter, Freud is at the beginning, and it doesn't use the ego as later. It's my only response, but je vais réfléchir.
She's gonna think over it.
Yes,
for next time. Okay. Do you have some more questions, because it's 10 p.m. here? Do you have some other questions?
Il a raison, c'est traversé, il faudrait dire ça, que c'est traversé par une seule marque, toutes ces références imaginaires de Freud. C'est l'idée de Lacan, en tout cas. Et là, je crois.
Okay, so maybe we can conclude and stop on this. Okay, and next time it will be on Sunday, March 18, and I'll be in San Francisco at that time, and but we will try to have a session nonetheless. Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay.
See you then.
What you say?
Bye.
See you all then. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye bye.